So this week you can say I got back to basics. I've talked about this in other test drives where I don't get necessarily the highest fit and trim on a certain model, keeping it somewhat status quo. And thankfully my friends over at Hyundai said, well, we got just yours, but you'll be surprised at the offering still in front of you. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now behind me, of course, is the 2021 Hyundai Santa Fe 2.5 liter all-wheel drive. Now it is a fairly modest entry level, around about $31,000, but when they said entry level and when I saw what was on the inside, it still didn't iron out because still a lot of bang for your buck. So the most telling story you have to say is the window sticker, typically plastered here on the side of any new vehicle. And one thing you look for is kind of that extras. Always there's a baseline, but certainly there's going to be just one thing after another that was added to what's in front of us. But when I look at this, specifically this being the SEL, well, everything I see it says is included, and I would keep going, but it's, well, numerous options that, well, they're not options, they're standard. Only thing I could find that was an added feature was the carpeted floor mats for a whopping $155. So all in, the standard price for this SEL, $31,680 as you see it. So what that means is, well, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck, and you'll certainly see it there on the inside, but where it begins, in my opinion, over at Hyundai is on the outside. The designs really have come to the forefront within the family lines. Everything really stepping up their game. Here on this particular model, what I like, again, the Santa Fe is delivering excellent curb appeal, really with the tight body lines, modest chiseling, sawed off haunches there, the corners. This lower cladding, of course, helping with that kind of off-road worthiness. This one being all-wheel drive, so certainly you want to prevent the scrapes and dings. But this modestly priced vehicle doesn't look that way. Has nice body color all the way around, darkened accents here and there, chrome to fill out the other areas. But really the Santa Fe, from all different trim levels, still delivers even when it is proverbially the entry level. One thing I like about this vehicle is its overall size, fitting squarely into the mid-size SUV segment. Not too big, not too small. Now my break-even point for this segment is around about 185 inches. Thankfully this vehicle coming a little bit longer at 188. As for wheelbase, fairly stretched at 108 inches. Other good numbers to think about is the width, about 74 inches wide and 66 inches tall. A lot of that overall height coming from the ground clearance, because again, this vehicle comes in all-wheel drive. That means it can go off the beaten path or get into those sticky situations, whether it be the mud and the muck or the typical snow. So getting this vehicle off the ground, Hyundai did very well with that, giving you 8.2 inches of ground clearance. So certainly for this SEL, there are some bells and whistles that are missing that we've seen on some other test drives, but again, with a great foundation. It's not just all about the extra thrills you're going to have on a vehicle, but truly where the vehicle starts from. And what I like is the business end of this size vehicle, really giving you great interior cargo space. But again, just the operation here at the back may be where the differences lie. On previous test drives with some upper grade models, that's going to be a power rear hatch. But here on the SEL, nice electronic release button, but just a simple tug gets this going up out of the way. Now, once it rises to the occasion, the equilibrium across the Santa Fe's is the amount of space you see right here. First off, behind the second row, around about 36 cubic feet of space. As you lay the second row flat, that's going to almost double to around about 72 cubic feet of space and plenty of acres. Thankfully, that second row is split from like a 60-40, 70-30 split, allowing you to add people and cargo as you need. Diving a little bit deeper, one thing I like first off is a nice overall flat cargo area. Again, tons of acreage, and you do have a lot of standard operation going on underneath this cargo floor. First off, this front portion going to have a deep cavernous area on this side, the jack and so on for changing the spare on this side. What you also have back here, again coming standard, is this kind of compartmentalized area. With this nice rigid foam, you can just simply lift this out of the way and it gives you these nice compartments. That allows you maybe when you go to the grocery store to put the bagged items here instead of them rolling around. Now, interestingly, I thought the spare tire would be found on the inside. Thankfully, that doesn't take up the space, but instead is mounted underneath. That means you just simply crank it down when needed. And again, all the operation for changing it is found over here. Now, like I mentioned at the start of the show, what I like here on the SEL is really all these standard options, one of them being the smart key system. That's not equal across the board. Oftentimes you run across to the competition when you look at kind of a starter package. Well, it's just not going to have the smarts right there at the beginning. Thankfully here on the Santa Fe it does. That pretty much means you keep the key in your pocket, walk right up here to the front either door, press the button, unlocks with ease. Now, to be expected, such convenience is not found here in the second row, but I've seen that all the way up to premium vehicles, so no slight here on the SEL. Real nice and convenient. When you walk away, just press it again, locks up nice and simple. Now, one area I always focus on and probably overspend a little bit of my time is the fill-up area and the security around it that a vehicle may or may not deliver. And what I like here again on this kind of base model is how well the Santa Fe does it, because after all, as gas prices go up, this might be the first security breach, as people might tend to want to siphon off what you have left to help keep them going down the road. And what I like here on the Santa Fe is when this vehicle is locked, so is the fill-up area. But there is no traditional button or little handle to pull. Instead, a little bit of premium-esque, could you say. Just simply unlock the vehicle. This unlocks with ease, and I challenge you to go find some premium vehicles that cost several thousand more dollars than this and may have a kind of a sporty facade, and oftentimes you're not going to see this level of security. Now, like I mentioned earlier, it's all about a strong foundation when it comes to the design of the Santa Fe, and where it begins, even here on the SEL, is the good old grille warfare. And what you'll find on certain vehicles is as you add a little bit more premium quality, maybe they dress up the front end just a little bit more. But here at the Santa Fe, it starts again with a strong foundation. So paying a little bit or paying a lot, well, it's equal across the board when it comes to design efforts. And where you see it first off is this huge chrome offering blunt force right across the middle, really setting an aggressive front end and blinging out again on a modestly priced vehicle. As for the headlight assembly, you're seeing a little bit kind of a more broader approach, kind of a quad lamp design. First off, the outer lamps for the traditional headlights, this inner one when you turn the brights on, and certainly that turn signal tucked in as well. As you sweep around the side, you're seeing these daytime running lights and also a little bit of hazard light here on the side, really giving that perimeter viewpoint from drivers maybe when they're coming up from the side. As you look at the front, fairly sculpted, modestly edging around to the front, a little bit of lower fascia, again that chrome sweeping down, and you'll see it tucked down the side as well. So really dressing this vehicle up from front to back and coupling everything together when it comes to design. Now, certainly when you save a little bit at the bottom dollar, that means there might be just a modest compromise when it comes to power plant under the hood, but sometimes when there's a compromise, that certainly is going to help you somewhere, maybe with fuel economy. And what we're going to have here specifically is a 2.5 liter inline 4-cylinder. Now, it's going to deliver around about 191 horses and 182 foot-pounds of torque. Now, when you step up to the more turbocharged option, that's going to deliver around about 277 horses and 311 foot-pounds of torque. So certainly when you save a little bit at the bottom, that means that, well, horsepower traditionally is going to drop. But again, if you can save some money and don't necessarily care about 0 to 60 or getting there above the speed limit, well, a nice SEL can fit the bill. Now, the great foundation on the outside, how does that transcend on the inside? Because again, this is where a lot of those extra frills will add to the bottom dollar. First off, what I like is the standard operating procedure when it comes to the infotainment system. First off, default split screen. Obviously, click on it one time, it will go full screen. Nice symmetric knobs, everything right where you need it. Now, I've talked about it before. This is kind of an arm stretch away, this even further. So there is no central control knob down here below, but instead you have to interact with it. Not a big deal, real nice and easy to use. What you won't find, of course, here on the SEL is navigation, but you do have a nice central screen, and you can go, of course, Apple CarPlay. So the mapping system with your traditional mobile device will certainly play in here. So navigation necessarily isn't needed. Now, just down from the infotainment system, you will find this control area right here. First off, the upper portion for climate control here on the SEL. No dual zones to be found, just a simple temperature control here on the right side. No digital readout for the actual temperature, but just your color coding to set your specific temperature. Here on the left side, symmetric knob for fan speed and all your various mode selects here in the middle. As for down below, what you will find is again the push button when it comes to gear selection and your various driving modes here for this all-wheel drive on this side over here. This does mimic kind of that central control knob that we've seen on some other premium vehicles, not to be expected on the Santa Fe across the board, but this does allow you to have the various driving modes. Also the auto start, auto stop feature. I do like the fact you can turn that on and off as needed. Some other features you will find: heated seats for up front. You won't find the air conditioned seats, which will be these voids on the outer side. You also do have parking cameras. Once you press that, that does give you the view from behind, but it does not have that 360 view. So this is just simply when you're going backwards, gives you a nice viewpoint. As you sweep down through the center, this area again mimics across all the different trim levels. First off, hiding this operation through here. Once it gets up out of the way, you will find a lower position cup holder as well as connectivity in the form of a USB. Also, this upper cup holder that does have the spring material keeps things in place. Surprisingly, this vehicle did have the wireless charging capability. Slide your phone in right through here. This little light will illuminate to let you know it's charging. Between the front occupants, you will find a nice elbow support. Does pop out of the way with ease. Nice little upper tray right here. Doesn't position back and forth, just simply positions here in the back. Once it's removed, you will find a deep cavernous area. One thing to note, it is not lighted up, so when it does get dark outside, this is kind of a fumble around till you find what you might be looking for. On the gauge cluster, you have analog, tach, and speedometer, but a nice digital readout there in the middle gives you lots of information, but most specifically the digital speed, which makes for a nice quick glance down while you're driving. This is where the Santa Fe steps up and feels premium-esque. A lot of controls found here on the steering wheel, on the left side for entertainment, here on the right for your cruise control. And what I like is it is the adaptive cruise control. Pretty much set the spacing, and it kind of monitors the traffic around you, speeds up, slows down as needed, as well as the kind of lane awareness that again gives you that modest kind of keep you in your lane. And I like the fact that it is a standard feature even here on the SEL. One little niche here that might go without notice is right below all the controls between the front occupants is this lower tray. Also has connectivity in the form of USB charger and traditional car outlet. Another thing I like is with the overall size of this vehicle, really giving you great legroom numbers. What you're going to find up front is a whopping 44 inches of legroom. What that means for backseat drivers, surprisingly, is, well, there's still quite a bit of room left over. What you're going to see back here is around about 41 inches. That pretty much means there's not a bad seat in the house. And again, with the overall ground clearance, that means there's plenty of feet space. So there's no traditional argument that you're going to find in a sedan. Everyone can find their seat and room for their feet. That does for this edition of Road Warrior Test Drive Behind the Wheel of the modestly priced 2021 Hyundai Santa Fe SEL. Again, with that grip at the four corners with all-wheel drive, but that modest engine under the hood that's not turbocharged, but again gives us decent fuel efficiency. But at the end of the day, what I like with the Santa Fe is its overall scale and the fact that it has a strong foundation from which you can build upon. Because again, if you don't want to go totally premium, that means you're going to keep a little bit extra bucks in your pocket and still have a solid ride that is much above the status quo. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.